So, this is my 2018 Bashan Brozz Blue Eagle model. If you're like me and you have been looking on the internet for years and seen all the plethora of available China bikes with enough names and designations to make your head spin, and wondering how in the heck can they sell a motorcycle this cheap? It's got to break instantly the minute you take it out of the box, right? So I wondered that for a few years, and then last fall I just kind of got a wild hair and decided, let's do it. Let's buy one, and if it's crap, it's crap, and if it's good, great. So I did a bunch of research, and I wound up going with the Brozz Blue Eagle. What the hell's a Brozz, you may wonder. As far as I can tell, it's a Chinese clone of a Honda Brozz, which is sold in Brazil mainly. Anyway, it's a lot like all the other breed of 250 Chondas that you see for sale all over the place online. So, I mean, a quick walk around this thing, it looks nice. I've actually been complimented on how nice this bike looks. I always chuckle a little inside because, you know, no one realizes it's Chinese just looking at the freaking thing. So here we are. It's 229cc CG 250 Zongshin clone motor. It's a clone of an old Honda pushrod CG engine. It's got its pros and cons. One of the reasons I bought this bike over a Hawk or a Tao Tao is the Zongshin CG 250. This one's counterbalanced. It's made by Zongshin, not Hyosung. It's actually a pretty darn respectable engine. It's the exact same, they don't want to say this, but it's the exact same engine that you're going to get in the CSC TT250. It just has a different side cover. It says Blue Eagle. So that's a major plus. It's actually a pretty solid engine. So the other things that you're going to want to be aware of with this bike, as far as what it is and what you're looking at here, is it's only a 229cc pushrod engine. It makes about 16 horsepower. I basically saw this as a cut price CSC TT250. The TT250 has some things going for it that this doesn't. It's got a 21-inch front and an 18 rear. This is a 17 and a 19. This has 50/50 tires. That has a grippier tire. I think the build quality on the bike as a whole is a little better on the CSC. On this bike, the actual chassis is made by Bashan. The engine is made by Zongshin. So this bike, compared to the other plethora of Chondas that are out there, I mean, I felt like this was a pretty good balance between, you know, the high end of the spectrum. The CSC TT250 is probably one of the best ones you can buy, but I feel like this is 80% and maybe 90% as good while being significantly cheaper. A CSC TT250 is going to run you about $2,500 by the time you get it shipped to your door. Whereas this thing, I got lucky. I bought it from P Sports out of Atlanta. I got it for $1,650 shipped. So I felt like saving $900 to have a few things I wasn't quite as stoked about, and having a little more assembly was well worth it. Now, you're probably wondering, what the heck's the process even like? If you actually buy one of these weird Chondas, what's it like to actually get one of these things? So if you buy through P Sports, I have nothing but good things to say about Jeff at P Sports. He did an amazing job. I was very happy with the customer service experience I received through that organization. It shipped almost immediately. It was like the next day when I ordered it, it shipped. I got the last Brozz Blue Eagle they had for sale. They were closing them out last fall. So I didn't get to choose the color. I would have preferred blue, but I wound up with green, and now everyone thinks it's a Kawasaki instead of a Yamaha. So it'll work. It shipped really quick. I live in relatively rural North Dakota, so it took a little while to get up here. It was about 5 or 6 days, so not terrible when you're thinking about you're shipping a crate on a pallet. Showed up at my local shipping facility. I wound up going to pick it up there instead of having them drop it off here. So I picked the thing up, brought it home, and uncrated it and put it together. You basically need to put the front wheel on, and you need to connect the rear swing arm and put the handlebars and headlight and fender on. It really didn't take me that long. Yeah, and I got it assembled pretty easily. It's really not that bad to do. The big bugaboo with these bad boys is when you buy one of these bikes, it's not a Honda, it's not a Yamaha, it's not pretending to be. So when they put this thing together at the factory, it doesn't quite get the same level of care as one of those Japanese bikes. So a lot of the components are reasonably high quality. The level of love that goes into assembling one of these is a little bit wanting compared to that of its Japanese counterparts, to put it nicely. So what I wound up doing, and if you buy one of these, go on China Riders, get the list. It's the same for just about every Chanda. All the things you need to go through when you put one of these new ones together. If you got time on your hands, it was a winter project for me, not too bad. So before I ever even rode the thing, what did I do? Well, I made sure to grease the axles good when they went in. I actually replaced the inner tubes. The factory ones are extremely thin and prone to popping. I carry them as spares now. I put some Ken to Tough tubes in. It's what was recommended on the group. I drilled and tapped a grease Zerk, if you can even see it. Is it Zert or Zerk? I have no idea. I hear it said both ways. Yeah, you can't see it in there. It's in there. It's on the swing arm. It sucked, but it's worth it to do. Pump grease into the swing arm once in a while. Otherwise, the swing arm bushings wear out. The engine, that's kind of a strange deal with these Chandas. Even the Zhongshens, which are good engines, they churn these things out, and unlike a Yamaha where you get it from the dealer and you can literally hop on and ride it, these things need a little more care. So they ship with what is debatably essentially some vegetable oil in them, or some melted Crisco or something. It's a shipping oil. Some guys say run it as a break-in. Some guys say drop it right away. I dropped it right away and put different oil in. I think I ran Castrol Activo. It doesn't matter. These will eat anything, but for some reason that shipping oil is universally seen as wrong, so I dropped it. Valves. Check the valves. They're really easy to adjust because it's a push rod. It's got a jam nut style adjuster. No big deal. It takes like 15 minutes. They were off from the factory. They were significantly off. One was, I believe they were both tight from the factory, so I had to loosen them up a little bit. Not a big deal, but it's something you got to do. Bolts. You're going to want to buy about a gallon of Loctite for one of these things, because you're going to want to, painstakingly as you're assembling it, Loctite every single bolt and check the torque. Don't rush it. You'll thank yourself later. Bolts they installed, think about taking them out, Loctiting them, and putting them back in. You'll thank yourself later. As far as assembly, I think that was about it. When I rode the thing, that I almost missed. I rejetted it almost instantly, and I replaced the spark plug with an NGK. The spark plug it comes with, I don't know, it worked. Everyone said they're junk. A new spark plug is a couple bucks. I threw a new one in. The carburetor, it's got this Chinese Kiin. It says it's a Kiin. It says Japan on it. I don't think it's actually made in Japan. You know, the term patent or copyright infringement doesn't translate particularly well into Mandarin, so Lord only knows what the deal is with this thing. It comes jetted stupid lean. I got new jets, which took about a month and a half off of eBay, because they come direct from China. It's literally slow boat from China, so be patient. Most people, when they buy one of these bikes, they either run it the way it is, or they take this carburetor, throw it over their shoulder, and buy a Mikuni clone or an actual Mikuni or a Nibby and throw it in. It runs a lot better if you do that. My purpose with this bike was for it to be really cheap, so I'm running this carburetor. I added fuel across the power band. I went up a size on the main, a size on the pilot. I shimmed the needle with one shim, and I turned out the fuel screw a little bit, or the mixture screw. So it runs a lot better now. That was another major thing that I did. The only other things I've really changed on this bike is chain and sprockets. It comes with, I believe, a 47 tooth rear sprocket. I went down to a 40. The reason I did that was it felt like it was about to shove a push rod into the fuel tank when I got up to about 55. It was screaming. Now, don't do what I did. Don't go down to a 40. I think about a 42 would be a reasonable number, maybe a 43. 40 is, for the amount of power the stock engine has, too low. I run out of power way before I run out of revs. It's kind of interesting. You know, most bikes don't have cruise control. This one does. It's called wide open throttle. Does about 65 everywhere you go. So that's a plus. I will be changing that eventually. So you're probably wondering about this goofy top case. This is homemade. Just some stuff I had laying around. Keep my crap in it, you know. Keep your motorcycle tool roll that you should always carry, especially if you're going to run a Chonda. It's a good idea. I've used it more than once. So as far as reliability goes, I currently have 652 miles on this bike. I have not had a single actual non-user caused breakdown. I had to adjust my chain tension once, and that's about it. When I say I've used the tool roll, it hasn't really been on this bike that much. It's been shockingly reliable. If what you're looking for is a good commuter, or just a cheap mess around bike, and you're mechanically competent and don't mind screwing around with it, I can recommend one of these. It's a way better bike than you think it is. So if you like to tinker, that's the big bugaboo with these things. If you like to tinker, if you're not mechanically inclined, do not buy a Chonda of any stripe. Even the CSC TT250, that'll be a lot better. It'll be basically set up from the factory. But if you don't turn wrenches, I cannot recommend it. That being said, if you're not at all mechanically inclined, you're going to have a hard time owning any motorcycle, because they're all somewhat labor intensive. Even our Japanese bikes, they need some care from, pretty often. This is a little bit worse. But Hasn't steered me wrong so far. I'll post an update at some point when I get 1,500 miles on it and see how it's still going. I've been pretty happy with it. I guess I can't really think of much else I have to say about it. It's this is probably going to be a terrible video, but I thought people might want to know what they're actually getting into with one of these things. Feel free to comment if you have any questions about it. My experience so far has been the Brozz is worth the money if you like tinkering on it. So, hope that's helpful.